Welcome to House Rules, the official podcast of the Utah House of Representatives. I'm Stephen Whyte, representative House District 63, which represents Mapleton and part of Springville and Spanish Fork, Utah. We're coming here from the Utah State Capitol today because earlier this month, our caucus elected the new House Majority Leader, Representative Casey Snider. He is a farmer, a public lands advocate, and a principled conservative from Cache County. Casey has earned the respect of his colleagues by not just chasing headlines, but actually doing the hard work. He is one of the very youngest lawmakers to ever be elected to this position. And so today we're going to give you a chance to get to know him, his story, his priorities, and what he is like off of the House floor. So Representative Casey Snider, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me here. That's quite the introduction. I am honored to be on such an esteemed show today.
Well, we're glad you're here. It's a privilege to be able to spend a couple of minutes with you and for all the listeners and to the viewers. Why don't we start at the very beginning here? Tell us why you're in the legislature and how did you get to know you wanted to do this and how did you actually get here?
This is being recorded, right? I don't know, honestly, if I still do know what I'm doing here sometimes. But so I would say, Representative, I got here through a series of poor life decisions. There's no other way I could couch this. I never thought I'd be in elected office. In fact, I served a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and hated wearing a shirt and tie every day and decided that I was never going to be in a career field of any kind where that would happen. Unfortunately, there's a series of events that occurred on that particular or in that particular period of my life in Russia. I had a fairly violent interaction with the Russian government, which included a Russian police officer breaking my jaw. And I spent 6 months of my life in and out of Russian court and jail and all the things. And I didn't like feeling like the government controlled my life. And I thought, well, I'm not just going to whine about it. I'm going to come home and I'm going to maybe be a participant in making things better. And so for those of you listening that are of the LDS faith, my mission ruined my life. And now I'm in politics. So there you go.
Now, that is an amazing story and experiences because they say, politics can kind of be rough and hard at times a little bit here. How long have you been serving in the House of Representatives?
This last session was my 7th session. Yep.
So, wow. Thank you for all the time in the service to you and your wife and to your family of what you've given to the state here. During that period of time in the legislature, what is one piece of legislation you're most proud of and why? I've run a few bills in the natural resource space. I think long-term those are going to have the most impact. But the one that the House passed last session dealing with firefighter cancer is probably the one that I feel like maybe helped individual people the most. I had been in the career fire service as a professional on the wildland fire side and then as a volunteer for the last 12 or so years and have known people in that profession that have had these sort of diagnoses and those types of things. So being able to honor the memory of those I'd served with, but also make it better for the future generations coming up. That's probably the thing when I sit back and hopefully don't remember a lot of what happened here at the legislature during our term, because it's, like you say, a little rough, a little exciting. That will be the one where I'm like, I think I made a difference. That'll be the one. Boy, that was an impactful bill, and it's helping. It was sure a touching moment when that was signed into law and or passed the legislature. So thanks for your leadership on that.
Well, you had to vote for it too. So thank you.
You're a good leader, pulling everybody together throughout the state to help that important issue. And so this next question is kind of a choose your own type of an adventure.
You get to choose.
Book. Yeah, exactly. Okay. You get to choose which course you want to take here. Give us another interesting story from your mission serving the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Russia. Or tell us what it's like learning your grandma's accordion. I'm told you have some very special mules in your life.
I do.
Choose your adventure.
Oh, man. What I'd really like to do is sing a Russian song, playing grandma's accordion while riding a mule. That is like my life goal. And maybe we'll get there, but I haven't technically known what that's like, but I think it would be amazing.
I want to learn a little bit more about each of those areas when we have some more time here. Okay. So far in your experience here in the legislature, what do you think the biggest misconception people have about your job of being a majority leader?
I'm here new enough that we're still trying to navigate that. There's two things that I would say. And one is there's misconception of maybe the body and the members that are here. I think having served here long enough, and you know this, we get to work with some of the most amazing people who have one of the hardest jobs in the state and do it because they care about their communities. That's awesome. And then in my mind, the majority leader is very much servant style leadership. And so being in a position where you can help amazing people do amazing things is pretty awesome opportunity. That's what I think that position's about, and that's what I'm looking forward to doing. So,
who's someone that shaped your political philosophy?
I have the misfortune or fortune of having done a little of this work before I came up here. My political mentor is still probably Congressman Rob Bishop. I worked for him in a couple of different capacities through the years. If you ever see me getting spicy in committee, where my face doesn't get red, but if I get a little grumpy with some questions, it's me channeling Rob Bishop as my spirit animal, because I watched that happen enough times in committee in DC, and he was an amazing advocate and still is an amazing person. So politically, it's probably Rob. Rob's probably had the biggest influence. But the other is, I got to work for Senator Bob Bennett, and I was there towards the end of his career. And what's probably shaped me more in terms of the interactions with my colleagues is him. And one of those pivotal moments was when he gave his farewell address on the Senate floor. Those of you that are familiar with politics and kind of how it works, that's usually a speech that is given by a U.S. senator as they're headed out the door. And it's on C-SPAN with like 4 people watching on TV and nobody in the chamber, right? It's just they're talking to whoever's running the meeting. And I still remember when he gave his farewell speech. I don't remember a lot of what was said. I mean, that was 15 years ago. But the Senate chamber had Republicans and Democrats listening. And that impacted me thinking, this man was conservative. He was a Republican from Utah and was able to still maintain a relationship and his policies and his principles at the same time. And that sort of I've tried to use that to navigate myself up here as well. So
thanks for sharing that. Sure applicable to today as well.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. Well, you spend a lot of time here at the Capitol and also time on your farm. When you're not at the Capitol or the farm, where are you?
Hopefully on a mule, which if you refer to the question 3 above, playing an accordion, singing a Russian song. No, I am happiest when I am outside, and I have kids that love being outdoors. My daughter and I, we try and do a 50-mile pack trip every year. She did her first one at the age of 11, so she can manage a horse, manage a pack string, be in, out in the wherever where there's not a lot of people around. That is where I'd like to be, is hunting, fishing, or riding a horse somewhere else. So
sounds like heaven. Where's the next trip?
We are going to we're going to be up in the Thoroughfare again in August. So we're counting down days.
Oh, how wonderful. How wonderful. Well, with all your time here and so many bills you've worked on and so many bills that you've seen come through the legislature, what's a bill you didn't carry but wish you had?
Well, all of yours. You are an inspiration to all of us, and you are going to solve the housing crisis. You're going to navigate local government complexities and permitting, and you're going to give people a place to live. That is a gold star you should wear proudly.
This is about you.
No. Oh. Well, I think I answered the question.
Yes. Okay. Let's go on here. What's a lesson you've learned from serving in the House?
Yeah. I was in a meeting once, and I'm in natural resources. That's the place I'm most comfortable, right? Because if I can't actually be outside or on my farm, I'd like to, be in the mix of that conversation. And when I first got here, again, channeling my inner Congressman Bishop, and I still kind of have this side of me, but I get a lot more spicy in committee than I do now. I think I'm settled down through time. And I remember getting a little spicy in Appropriations Committee. They can be a little interesting at times, and sometimes that process is a little difficult. And I had said something, And Carl Albrecht was on one side of me, and he said, you need to settle down or you're going to have a stroke. And then Senator Scott Sandel was on the other side of me, and he said, there, little buddy, it's going to be okay. And so I've learned to just look at my elder statesmen that I get to work with up here and settle down a little bit. That's what I think I've learned.
Well, as you're in those committee meetings and you're in leadership meetings and in a whole variety of other situations here at the Capitol and the legislature, if you could wave a magic wand and solve one issue in the state of Utah, what would that be?
One issue in the entire state of Utah. Well, I'm pretty, if I could actually make the Jazz win a championship, I think I would do it. I think I would wave that wand, especially now where it's a little rough. But if I could just, if I could fix an issue, it would be Stockton and Malone and a championship ring, and I would have done that. I would do that.
That sounds like a great wish and a plan.
Can you imagine what the state of Utah would feel like right now if we had done that?
Huh?
If I had my wand, I would do it.
Okay, I think it's coming. I think it's coming here. Okay, so we both grew up on a farm. Now, and you grew up on a farm milking cows.
I did.
And moving pipe, and I did as well, but you did it in Ogden Valley.
Yep.
How does your rural and agricultural background inform you of your work here at the Capitol?
Well, you know this because it just becomes in your DNA. You get up early, it becomes a part of you. Well, first of all, it means you and I are comfortable working really hard, potentially crappy jobs for nominal, if any, pay, right? So it prepared us to do these hard jobs and maybe not worry about those things that don't matter, like compensation and stuff like that, right? That's a big part of it. But I also think the legislature or making our communities better or whatever else is, in agriculture, you don't work 9 to 5. You're starting at 3:00 if you're milking, and then in the summer you're going till it's past dark or past 10 o'clock. And this notion of this is work and this is whatever else, that doesn't really apply in agriculture. And I don't think it applies up here. You just learn to work until the job is done. And I think that makes the best lawmakers up here. And that's why you've been successful at that. That's hopefully what I've been able to contribute, is just apply those base lessons that you learn on a farm that you can't learn anywhere else, and just come up here and do what needs to be done.
You're a good example of that. Dive into a little bit more about milking cows here. A little birdie whispered in our ear and asked us to ask you, did your milking muscles impress the Cache Valley Dairy Princess? And also, what is a milking muscle?
It's I love my wife dearly. Maybe she should come be on this podcast, because clearly that's who was asked. So I would say first and foremost that all of my wonderful characteristics, all the things that are great about me, including those muscles, was not enough to initially impress the Cache County Dairy Princess. So imagine, if you will, you grow up milking cows. That's what you want to do. You want to have that, it's a part of your life. And you meet this amazing girl at Utah State because you're at the ag college, right?
Right.
And you're milking cows at the ag college before school and all those things. You find the dairy princess, right? And that's a fairy tale that writes itself in theory. But it took me a year of really, really hard work, work until the job is done, to convince her. So I would say nothing about me initially impressed my wife at all. But hard work and perseverance convinced her eventually. I tell my wife, for us, our marriage was not love at first sight, because she had some reservations. I call it love at second glance. So that's what it is. But milking muscles are just the massive muscles you develop in your hands from milking cows. And that's it's not that impressive, but I tried. So yeah, that's that story. Yeah.
Well, you two are a dynamic team. Boy, what a great team.
Couldn't do it without her for sure.
Boy, both of you.
And she's lucky to have me, and I will convince her of that eventually.
Oh dear. We need to have her on this podcast here in the future.
Probably.
Yeah, we definitely will here. Okay, so you flexed your muscles here in the legislature to be able to help the entire state in a lot of different areas. And you've talked about your love and passion for being outdoors and the natural resources, and you spend a fair amount of time out there. How has your sportsman's influence and activities helped you look at water and land conservation? And are there any additional experiences that have helped you guide kind of from a policy approach?
Well, I think I see all natural resources, whether it's the farm or wildlife or whatever else, is sort of our role as stewards. Like we are here for a time to use whatever resources they are. The ground we grow our crops in, the water we use to irrigate, the wildlife that we use for food or fiber, or animals for food and fiber in that matter anyway. Like our job is to use them in a way that is wise so that the next generation gets that same opportunity. So I think, you know this because of your background, you plant in the spring knowing that you're going to have a crop in the fall. You manage your farm so that it is there for the next generation. And I sort of see that as everything that is our prerogative and is our role in natural resources, is ensuring that there's plenty for us now. I mean, that's an important part of it, but also plenty for the next generation coming. So,
well, you do it well, being able to convene and bring people together, what can be helpful now, but also generational benefits going for the future. In fact, our House caucus right now, there are a lot from rural Utah, but also urban Utah, and everyone comes with different perspectives. How do you approach and work and balance strategy and unity, working with people and organizations, not only the legislature, but throughout the state?
Well, I think at a fundamental level, I believe this, you know this, we are all here doing the best job that we can. And we represent people that are different in our communities, but we still represent a community. So in my mind, giving at least that deference to those priorities, because somebody voted for you, somebody thinks you can do the good job, whether you're in Utah County or Cache County or wherever, and giving deference to the constituents, to the people that sent us here, is how I think we make everything work. Because, you know, my perspective and somebody from downtown Salt Lake City is not going to be the same. But, you know, if they're a Democrat like Andrew Stoddard, their opinion probably doesn't matter that much. But if they're any other Democrat from Salt Lake City, you know, potentially they have something that's of value to share, and you just recognize that.
Well, I'm sure he might be listening to this here in just a little bit. We'll give him a chance to rebuttal and, you know, provide another perspective.
He knows I'm right. Regardless of what he says, he knows I'm right.
Well, Representative, you have been such a good sport of being able to ask so many different types of questions, and for giving us a glimpse into more about yourself and why you're serving here. And congratulations again on being elected the House Majority Leader. Thank you for your willingness to serve and even spend more time helping the entire legislature and the entire state. We're lucky to have your leadership, and especially as we go into another very important year.
Well, thanks for having me. We have an amazing caucus, and you know that from getting to work with the people in your capacity. I look forward to helping in whatever way that I can to help members of this majority caucus succeed. That's what I'm excited about. So looking forward to it. Thanks for the time.
Thank you, Representative. And thanks to everybody for listening today as well. This has been House Rules. I'm Representative Stephen Whyte, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.